Hello, everyone. Welcome to Artist Spotlight, a segment we're introducing here on Music News Blitz. I'm joined here with Will.
Hello, hello.
And we have a very, very special first guest on this segment. This is Firouz, and Firouz is the leading member of the band FORRM. Firouz, you're in a very beautiful setting here. Tell us, where are you? What are you up to?
I'm having lunch with a team here at the Trois Galets, which is on the border of a little city called Saint-Maxime. Just off in front of me here, you have the view on Saint-Tropez and a couple of yachts that are starting to gather for the season. So yes, we're in Provence, in the south of France, where I'm based.
Looks beautiful. Amazing.
Thank you, guys. Yes.
And we're here today to talk about a release that is coming up, a digital release for your new album, Boutique. So we're going to get straight into it. Will, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah,
right.
So
okay.
Apologies.
Sorry, Will.
No, don't worry. So could you first of all just tell us a bit about FORRM, how you guys, how it came together?
Oh, thank you for asking. As you might have known, I had a previous ensemble or band in France in the 2000s up to 2012 called Playground. And that one with, the rise of social media and the download revolution kind of like didn't make it through all of the record labels, the indie record labels that closed at the end of the 2000s. And we were always kind of like very independent minded, and we didn't feel like we wanted to join the horde of bands that were signing onto the majors. So I quit the music industry at the time and concentrated on contemporary art since then. And most of my activities are centered on my practice as a contemporary artist. But as things started to pan up into installational presentations in more and more interesting settings, we finally had the opportunity to present a whole pavilion for a Central Asian nation called Kyrgyzstan in 222. And that occasion gave me the opportunity to write the whole soundscape for the Gates of Turan installation at the time. So I had in mind, I continued writing soundscapes as an artist for my work in a solo manner. But that's where I started bringing in other musicians to write the music for that installation in 2022. And the first iteration of how FORRM kind of came together took place during the production of the Kyrgyz Pavilion for the Venice Biennale of 2022. And but I've always thought of FORRM as my experience in bands in general through my 12 years on the rock and roll circuit was not that positive. I thought that a lot of ego, a lot of problems on publishing. There's this whole out view on how a band functions. Well, I thought that I would build FORRM like an open-ended musical post-rock ensemble, where where whoever was there at a given time in space and project-wise would join the project and develop as long as it could work, like working on a pirate ship. You just hop in, you hop out. And so that's how things kind of formalized in this first version. And then a production company in Paris started shooting a whole documentary about my experience in Kyrgyzstan. My production company bought up the rights from it, and we decided to turn it into a film that I would direct. And I called in even a larger segment of musicians I considered, really talented in New York City, because our company is based in New York City and partly Paris, New York City. And I was very much in the city, and we started working with an Iranian guitar player, that's called Kami Rahmanikia, and a very active bass guitar player, singer, musician from the Lower East Side called David Petillo, that brought in a Brooklyn-based drummer called Charlie Sheft. So kind of like we started getting into sessions at that time. And And that's how through the scripting, the musical scripting of the film, which was an art documentary, we kind of like solidified the ensemble as it is today.
Amazing. What a beautiful history as well as how FORRM has been, come together and everything. I really love that. And I love your vibe. Can I just say that? You seem like a really awesome guy. You spoke about a term called the download revolution. As we know, a lot of your work has been done on cassette tapes. Could you tell us a bit about that, about the whole download revolution thing? What's your thoughts on that? And so the meaning behind cassettes?
Well, yeah, the download revolution kind of gave way to a lot of hope, didn't it, when it happened? I mean, we're all, at the time, and when this came up, that was in the early 2000s. That was the very, very early stages when Napster came around. And there was a lot of hope within the artistic community that it would lead to more artistic freedom, better percentage. I mean, Prince and Madonna had already left famously the major labels to create their own record labels, especially Prince had a very cutthroat, approach. And also you had Pearl Jam, Eddie Vedder too, was having his fight with Ticketmaster famously. And I've always been on that side of things. I think that since recording kind of like solidifies into the 60s as a global business, artists have been on the latter side of the respect of percentages, and we've I think very much been taken advantage of. And as we're growing, I think more and more artists are starting to be producer artists, and you can see, for instance, the rise of people like Jay-Z and others that have become prominent as artists, as producers, and I'm saying that the whole revolution slowly led when Spotify did the deal, and by the way, hashtag Spotify till I die. I think I call it digital tyranny. I mean, there's a saying between musicians: is the more you play, the less you make. I mean, it's for many musicians. The more they play, the more they they develop their activities, the poorer they get. When you see the prices of what a band costs on the back line, and you see the cents that that are just like piling up on your Spotify account, and then asking you to pay for your own marketing, I find it absolutely horrendously disgusting. And so I believe that there's a boutique also is kind of related to that. There's a community level exclusive way to get out of this this trap. And I think that musicians and artists, and the way it's done in the contemporary art business, it's kind of for me a template, is that you don't really care about having thousands and thousands of followers. What you care about is having a very trustworthy, very close gang of people that support what you do, and that goes through the exclusive limited edition idea of doing. First we did 12 inches, we did 7 inches on vinyl, and we got to tape finally, because tape for me is closer to the way I record, because we work with recording studios that all have analog tape options. So I usually work on computer, but I always bounce my takes directly back on the Ampeg and on the tape, and then we rebounce it on the timeline. And we always work, and we try not to work with too much with the plugins, and try to work as much as we can between the digital and the analog in the process of construction. So the tape kind of like for me, and also the tape, you just go in a party and you have it in your pocket. You see Jack White, you can say, "Hey Jack, here's my tape." He puts it in his pocket. Whereas you have a vinyl on you, it breaks. It's difficult to transport. And I do vinyl, and I also like the idea that obviously vinyl has become kind of like mainstream again, and I applaud that fact that it has. And I find it kind of edgy to do tapes, whereas people say, "Well, I can't play it," and I always say, "Well, that's the point, man. And get yourself a 1984 Mercedes and press play."
Yeah, and you talked about the process of making your music through the analog tape. Could you just tell me what that experience is like, especially obviously now we're in this digital world where a lot of artists will use production like apps and different services and not analog tape?
Well, I saw that I've been very impressed by how Gen Z basically is conducting their approach to the digital era. I've heard that 2026 was called the analog year, if I'm not mistaken, by some of the the proper influencers of the generation, and the way also like launch parties are done for breakfast in boulangeries and cutting down on the drinks, but not cutting down on the party. I really like that. I think there's something going on, and I think that thing that is going on is linked to the fact that, for instance, I heard there's an app that came out that basically is called the Non app or something that basically like cuts your you can program it and it cuts your activity on your screen time, and and I think we're there. I think that the independent movement is there. How do we find mind space? How do we find time to integrate cultural, broader ideas without having to be completely thwarted and avalanched by the noise of nonsense that the system is sending us through the screens? So I think that the fact that you approach the idea to work on analog kind of goes in the same family of thought, and it puts you in a longer, obviously, and a harder process in your creative output. So you work on a let's say on a midterm instead of working for instant gratification. But that actually already kind of connects to the whole idea of slow food, the whole idea of joining meditational groups, even to a point on self exploration through ayahuasca.
Absolutely. I love the take that you're bringing here, especially with Gen Z, and we definitely are slowing down when it comes to partying culture, drinking, screen time, and all of that. So I wanted to get into your album Boutique and your lead single Junkie WAYZ. Yes, and we are so excited to be talking about this. We hear the digital release is coming on the 1st of May, but we've heard a little bit of it, and I must say, me and Will love it. So please tell us about it. Why is it the leading single? Tell us about the album and all of it.
So just to correct you on that, the Junkie, the mini album, I don't call it an EP. I don't call it a single. I don't call it anything. We just basically sent a taster out with a couple of tracks, some mixes, which are mixes we did with sax. With some mixes we did, they're alternative mixes. Apart from Junkie WAYZ, that's cut to a 3-minute 40 version, which is more like a radio edit of the one you'll discover on the album in October, which will be a 9-minute edit of Junkie WAYZ, because we are very close to to jam bands that are out there that are killing it on the tourist trail. I mean, I'm a big fan. Everybody should go and check out this great band in the US called Goose, with a double OSE, especially not Geese, which is for me like a whole fabricated, false indie, major backed marketing coup. So I would say go for Goose, don't go for Geese. And so Goose basically are touring all the universities, and they're doing a cover of The Who right now that's incredible, of Eminence Front. They play 12 to 14 minutes version of it. So they kind of like recuperated the public from Dave Matthews Band, The Grateful Dead, from Fish. But they're your generation. They're like 27, 28, and they're awesome. And we are in that same kind of format. So what we're done with Boutique is that we have on Boutique, and if you go on our release right now, we got a 5th track, or it's a 4th track. That's a 22-minute track called Nomad's Prayer. That's the score from my ongoing film called Path. That's on the festival circuit that just got nominated for its soundtrack in a festival in Croatia yesterday. And so that's Nomad's Prayer. We're going to be pushing on Nomad's Prayer after Junkie WAYZ, by the way, through June and July. And so we work along those lines in Boutique. We have very, very, very big songs, meaning long songs, meaning some of our songs are 22 minutes, some of our songs are 12 minutes. And we're just giving you a taster with Junkie WAYZ here with its radio edit, a couple of different mixes of, there's a B-side called Night Letter that relates to my Iranian origins that I wrote for the kids in Iran that are fighting for liberation. Shab Nomeh, night letter means it's a night letter given under, under the protection of the night, like the Rolling Stones might have said, on the cover of the night. So it's like a secret message through a song that I sent to them about partying, being free, and having a great time. And there is Art Thieves, which is a very funky song. Art Thieves is a song I wrote about Art Basel, and it's completely extravagant exaggerations. And so it kind of like takes on the art world's, how to say, negative exaggerations and abuses, and even, relates to the Me Too, because there's been a lot of scandals in that area also, as you might know, on abuses made. So I did a kind of like a critical analysis of the art world through Art Thieves, which is in an alternative mix right now there with a saxophone player that's called Loïc Stanislavski, that comes from the jazz scene, that's touring extensively, and that's going to be with us on stage in June, because we're going to present all this, I'll tell you later, in June. And so that's it. So Boutique itself is going to be presented in as an album in October, and we're thinking about doing it during Freeze Art Week in London, again, to be like on the border of the two things, and in an art gallery, and to do the launch of the album through a four-side, this time 12-inch. We won't do a tape. We will have a tape, but the whole album is constructed in 4 parts, because we just took the template of the 22-minute or 25-minute maximum that you have on the 12-inch per side, and each side, phase A, phase B, phase C, and D, have different thematics and length related to what you can put on a vinyl. So that's why it's called Boutique. The Boutique is basically that object. It's going to be completely available just in October, and that is related just to potentially questions you're asked later, to links that I make with my practice as a painter.
Yeah, so first of all, I just want to say congratulations for your nomination. That's really exciting to hear.
Hey, well, thanks, man.
And you've mentioned your filmmaking past, your history in art, but how do they help you when it comes to the songwriting process and making music? Are you still thinking about all these different visual elements, even though with music, for the most part, it's mainly audio?
Well, when it comes down to the filmic process and even writing scripts, because right now we're moving into my first feature film that's going to be shot in London and in Essaouira this winter, called The Season of the Witch, by the way. That's the first time I talk about it in press, in written press. We had a couple of announcements made on ArtNet, but first time I talk about it on video for the music industry. And so, yeah, my feature film is going to be basically happening this winter. And the way I work, just to give you an idea, is that I'm basically on lockdown all year between my studio in Essaouira, where my atelier is, where my workshop is, plus my recording studio, plus 2 different studios with which I collaborate here in the south of France, namely Coccinelle, that's got the whole analog system, plus the Neve system, analog, all analog down. They've got a beautiful studio right there in Saint Raphael on the sea. And I'm working where I live, next to Cogolin in Gasson, with a boy called Marin Henrion, which is my sound engineer. And we're like in the recording studio 2 times a week, like continually. So what's happening is that the whole of FORRM is arriving in France in 10 days. And we're all going to be in recording studio for 3 weeks in a residency. And we're basically writing the music of the film before even the film is made. Why? Because the way I write my script, and I script my films doing the music, meaning the music comes first, Will, to answer your question. So I will basically turn your pancake upside down, and I will say, no, I write the music first that informs the image. So it's like my films are basically constructed like a mega video clip. I basically edit my films on the music, and the rhythm is informed on by the music. I remember Tarantino in a great interview after he did Pulp Fiction saying that he spent hours. Obviously, he didn't do original music because he said, I'm not a musician and I don't have the patience to wait for anybody to write me the music. I want it instantly. So he'd rather take songs that already exist from his library because he can listen to them smoking a joint and having whiskey in his studio, right? and trip on it. So I actually go a step forward. I say, well, Quentin, I actually do exactly what you do, but I actually write the music too. So I write my music, then construct the film on the music as I write the script and I get into shooting. So to answer your question, if you guys will take time to go to see the screener of our art documentary, Path, that's like 2 hours 20 long, about my adventures in Kyrgyzstan and the Venice Biennale, with which Nomad's Prayer was created, for which the soundtrack of. You'll see how I work. Now, there is another level, because now we're talking about the filmic process. Now, if you're talking about what I do on an installational and contemporary art scene level, the way I write the music is kind of different, because the relationship I have with painting is the same relationship I have with music. There's an immediacy that painting and music have in common. Okay, because the way you deliver music, apart from the fact that you record it, it's still, the performance of that music, that vibe, that day, that room, that moment. Okay, these people, it's always about that. Whoever tells you the contrary, whoever's using auto tune in the rooms, whatever, they're not going to be remembered in 10 years. Okay, so it's all, listen to Miles Davis talk. That's the way it goes. It's the person, the room, the vibe, the time. You always have to do that. So painting goes around the same way. And it's a very immediate thing, especially when I work on the abstract format. And so we're always working, in inner geographies. I brought, the book of Michelangelo Antonioni here, The Bowling Alley on the Tiber. That's a beautiful book that says that all ideas, all thoughts developed by human beings are first birthed into abstraction. Then we bring them into rationality to deal with the external world and to defend ourselves and to feed ourselves. And then when you go to sleep, they go back into abstraction. So I basically work my paintings that way. I go back to this inner geography where the abstraction lies, the way you do music. Okay. And so I paint the way I do music. So the way my installations are built is that I don't need to write the music for my installations at first, because painting is as immediate to me. But then I integrate what I call sound spheres or soundscapes, mostly known in the art world, but I like sound spheres more because it's got a more immersive thing to it. And then the music integrates my installation sideways instead of being originated. And so I've got a different, relationship to it. But what's interesting about Boutique is that I had the idea to develop a limited edition of 10, let's say 8 artworks that are like 2-3 meters high. Okay, very, very large artworks with which we are going to basically, as you see on the artwork of JUNKIE WAYZ right now, and as you will see on the video of JUNKIE WAYZ that's been developed thanks to AI animating my paintings, we will only use those paintings to do the whole visual trip, psychedelic trip into Boutique. And our show in Freeze in October will actually be the vernissage or the opening of the Polyform series that are the artworks of the film, of Boutique. So I'm kind of like having a lot of fun, Will, and on mixing these formats together, and somehow giving life to a form of psychedelia that mixes contemporary art and music.
Yeah, I love it. It's quite a multimedia experience when I look at your work, especially with the videos that accompany it, with the animations. I wouldn't say it's a traditional record. It would definitely be more immersive and cinematic. I'm not sure if you'd agree with that. But yeah, I think it's awesome. One thing we do here at Music News Blitz with our artists, or just in general discussions, we ask to describe your album or even the song JUNKIE WAYZ in 3 words. And why would you describe it in those 3 words? You have a way with your words, Firouz. So I think that you'd be able to answer this question quite brilliantly. So give it a think.
I gave it a thought, because to be true to you, there were some, rumors going through the grapevine. Connie, that's working with us in London, of Percy and Warren, kind of warned me you were going to come up with this question. So, I kind of like, I woke up this morning thinking about it. I can't get that one wrong. So I thought about flipping the pancake again. I'm telling you that maybe there are maybe 3 books that maybe have more importance to me than 3 words. So I showed you one. That's this this book that's published by David Werner Publications, Antonioni. So abstractions, abstract work, where I would bring the word polyform. Polyform means in Greek the word poly is multiple, and form, as you know, is just the way to approach form when you're working in art. Could be any kind of art. So multiplication of formats, borderlessness in multimedia approach, I think is the first word. Okay. So, and it's the name of the series that will accompany Boutique on its release. Second, I thought that there was a book that also was word. So I brought the famous, eternal um, poetry essay by Allen Ginsberg. How? So how? Why how? Because as he says, I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked, dragging themselves through the streets at dawn, looking for an angry fix. So that too is how, why? Because hey, someone has to say something. We have to at once, try to be responsible, but at once we have to be disruptive. So yes, and it is a place of pain. I mean, come on, the way us artists are treated today, the way we are not heard, the way politics are taking over culture needs a how. So that's my second word. Third word would be inspired by another beat. I'm very much connected to the beat generation. So I would say beat. And because I think that the last time that something incredibly powerful came out was as a result of the beat generation, and whatever happened in the 60s, the 70s, and 80s, on whatever we read from Bret Easton Ellis, on whoever, comes from the continuity of Hemingway that went all the way to Kerouac, then to Bob Dylan, by the ways of Gainsbourg, and here Lawrence Ferlinghetti, and a poet I adore from that generation that inspires my writing, Gregory Corso. So I would advise anybody out there to try to find this unfindable book called Gregory Corso, Lawrence Ferlinghetti, and Allen Ginsberg together, the beat generation. So my third word would be beat generation. So guys, reconnect to the beat generation, re-listen to all the songs of Bob Dylan, reread On the Road. It's all there to be taken for free.
Yeah, it's like this encapsulation of culture in a way, and that seems to be something that's at the forefront of your work as well as your process. Could you just tell me about that, how you kind of bring all these cultures together while making the music as well as representing it in the music itself?
Wes, this is like a very determinist situation because I was born in Tehran and I had to flee the country because of a revolution. I had family members jailed. I was countryless for a long time, or my family's completely displaced in, like, I don't know. They're in England, they're in France, they're in the U.S. I mean, I grew up there is journalist in the art world, very well known, Farah Noyeri, a Persian one that does all of the big columns for the New York Times art reviews. That once before she worked for the New York Times, interviewed me and coined that word, nomadic displacement. So yes, I do suffer from the condition of nomadic displacement, my friends. But that basically puts me in it's like I live with my roots upside down, you know. So it's like I'm open to cultural dialogue by nature. I'm open to differences by nature, and my curiosity is taken by the fire that can be kind of lit when two cultures even clash between themselves. I think that the battle of the avant-garde right now is the forefront of it is where the countries kind of like clash, you know. I mean, and I think our job as artists are not here to create divisiveness, okay? We're here to bring dialogue and inclusiveness and to bridge the differences more than taking sides. That's why I'm not an activist. I think the word will never be connected to what I do. I prefer to using the word, as you know, I like words, activator.
That is beautiful. Activator. And I think that is a great place to end today's discussion. We have learned so much from you today, and you've been such a pleasure to interview. Thank you so much for taking your time today, Firouz.
I hope you guys will. I'll meet you guys in London in October when we launch the album.
You know what? We're gonna make a plan. We're gonna get there. I'm based in South Africa, but Will's in the UK, so we're gonna try.
Well, bring me to South Africa, and I'll. You know, I like the art fair of Johannesburg. It's been it's been on the map in Africa. I think it's one of the most powerful ones, with the Marrakesh Art Fair, and I think Lagos is also coming up.
Well, yeah, I'll come show you around. And it was great. It was great speaking to you today. And for everyone watching, please keep up to date with everything happening here. There's a lot to look forward to.
WeAreTheNomads.com, WeAreTheNomads.com. Come on, it's all there.
Exactly.
See you later, guys.
Have a good day.
See you later.
There's a tuna tataki that's waiting for me.
Enjoy it. Cheers.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Lots of love. Peace and love.